All right, guys, we're going to start the program here soon. Viewers and listeners, look at the screen for today's headlines. Live on Twitter, live on YouTube. We got crazies downtown over there or no?
Always.
Live on YouTube, good. Live on Twitter. Like and share the show, guys. Hammer that like button. Retweet the show. A lot we're going to cover on the broadcast. Get started in a matter of moments. If you have any questions, topics, ideas, put them in the feed and we'll relay them live on air. We're going to talk about that AstraZeneca news. Got a lot of feedback. We were told to emphasize that it's not just AstraZeneca building a multi-billion-dollar headquarters, that it's also Eli Lilly, two publicly traded companies. And Eli Lilly's is in Goochland. So I want to talk impact of AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly as it's been sent to me. I think the impact of AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly setting up multi-billion-dollar headquarters in this area is just the beginning. Just the beginning of a biotechnology movement that is going to be a domino effect, a domino impact effect, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about that impact and ask you, the viewers and listeners, to help us put in perspective what that impact will be. We're also going to talk Home Depot's grand opening today. Home Depot is going to have a significant impact on the northern part of Albemarle County, and I think Home Depot is going to have a significant impact on the entire Central Virginia, well, specifically Albemarle and City of Charlottesville economic development scene. We'll talk about that today. We'll talk about Gen Z. I had an interesting conversation today over breakfast about Gen Z and some of the struggles with getting Gen Z to work. I had a conversation over coffee and breakfast. It was me and a couple of business owners that were at the table. And I want to pass along some of the conversation that was had today to you, the viewer and listener, in discreet fashion. But I think it's an interesting talking point. Judah Wickower, Jerry Miller, yours truly, on what is the water cooler conversation. It's the I Love CVille show. Viewers and listeners, tag a friend and let them know that the show is on. Print, radio, and television watching the show. Print, radio, and television. You should be covering Jeff Levine selling 600 West Main Street. That should be in your news cycle, print, radio, and television. All right, Judah Wickower, we can rock and roll when you're ready.
Quiet on the set.
Welcome to the I Love CVille show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on the program. The water cooler conversation, the water cooler of content, the water cooler of Charlottesville and Central Virginia. It's the I Love CVille show. A lot we're going to cover on today's broadcast. We touched on yesterday AstraZeneca building a multi-billion-dollar facility in Albemarle County. We briefly touched on that Eli Lilly was building a multi-billion-dollar facility in Goochland County. If you can open up that story, so Judah Wickower, you can set the who, what, when, where, why for the viewers and listeners. You can find that, I think it was the Richmond Times-Dispatch.
I've got it open.
You have it open? Fantastic. We didn't unpack it as much as we should. And I heard via text message from a viewer and listener that I have tremendous respect for, a viewer and listener that has never commented on the show, not even with anonymity or not even with a nickname. This viewer and listener is a mover and shaker locally, to say the least, a significant commercial and residential real estate holder, to say the least, and a gentleman that has seen many different economic cycles in Charlottesville and Elmore County and Central Virginia, to say the least. And this gentleman texted me after the program. He said, "You touched on AstraZeneca." First he said, "Great show." Then he said, "You touched on AstraZeneca, but you didn't cover the impact enough on what's happening here with Eli Lilly and AstraZeneca opening multi-billion-dollar facilities." And then he texted me some intel on what he perceives the impact will be. And he texted me this information knowing that he can rely on me to keep his name out of it. I asked him, "Can I speak about this on the show?" And he said, "Yes, but this is going to be an off-the-record conversation from my name associated with it." So I have his permission to pass on what he suggests will be the impact of AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly opening multi-billion-dollar headquarters in Charlottesville and in Goochland County, in Elmore County and in Goochland County. It's no secret, if you watch the I Love CVille show, I've said the impact of biotechnology would be significant locally. The head of the Paul Manning Biotech Institute, and I was at one of Paul Manning and his son-in-law Chris Henry's trophy properties this morning at Dairy Market, enjoying a fantastic iced latte at Cumbre. And Paul, Mr. Manning, has given $100+ million to fund a biotechnology institute on Fontaine Avenue that will bear he and his wife's name. And we said when this announcement was made, we said it before the announcement was made because we were told that the donation was coming, and we were given permission to talk about it prior to the donation being announced by UVA. But we said, before COVID, that this was going to be significant. The Biotechnology Institute, within the last year, has hired a managing director. That position, that exact title may not be managing director. Maybe for the sake of a talk show, let's just call him the head of the Paul Manning Biotech Institute. And this executive director, this managing director, this senior position atop the Biotechnology Institute on Fontaine, it was an executive, a senior vice president from publicly traded AstraZeneca that was lured over here. And when Virginia, the University of Virginia, announced the news that they had lured, they had seduced, they had romanticized, they had hired a senior vice president from publicly traded AstraZeneca to run their biotechnology school, you and I, the viewers and listeners, Judah, we all kind of did some back-of-the-napkin estimating on how much this guy would make. And that back-of-the-napkin number, depending on who you asked, was somewhere between $800,000 and 1.2, 1.3 million. Broad range here. We do know that the president of the university, Jim Ryan, is making about $1 million and change, just over $1 million in total compensation. We do know that Craig Kent was the highest paid employee by the University of Virginia, making a little bit more than Jim Ryan. Now, Tony Bennett and Tony Elliott and now Ryan Odom, they make the most money, but their compensation is not directly tied to the university. A lot of their compensation is tied to radio and television contracts and performance bonuses and sponsorships and partnerships and even NIL deals. So I discount the head football coach or the head basketball coach when talking about total compensation with employees at UVA. When I discount football and basketball, I then think, okay, the president is either one or two. Craig Kent was one at the time of his resignation, thanks in large part to a $500,000 raise he got about 6 or 7 months before he resigned. Jim Ryan was in the 2 slot. So based on that pay scale, we know that the biotechnology head is probably making, just call it $1 million for the sake of conversation. So this guy who's seduced and romanticized and hired for publicly traded AstraZeneca, let's say he's making $1 million, and that'll be public information. We'll be able to figure all that out if we wanted to. Interestingly, the CVille Daily each year has a digital portal where you could go and you can Google UVA salaries and you can figure out through their digital portal how much everybody's making. Now, UVA Health is a little more challenging to figure out what they make, because what's listed for these physicians, especially the upper-level physicians, the C-suite physicians, is a certain level of compensation that is not indicative of what they really make, because there's physicians, there's C-suite within UVA Health that's also paid by a different entity called UPG, the University Physicians Group. And that University Physicians Group compensation, complementary compensation, is a significant amount of money. So it's hard to know what, like, a friend of the program, and I love this guy. He knows I love him. I respect him tremendously. Bought his house from him in Keswick, since sold his house. But Dr. Bobby Chabra, one of the heaviest of hitters in his field in the entire world. And I hope Bobby hears this. Literally world class in his field, Dr. Bobby Chabra. Bobby Chabra, the man, the myth, the legend behind the UVA facility on Ivy Road next to Vivace. I mean, that was his baby, his dream for years, decade plus, bringing that to market. He shepherded and stewarded that development. I don't want to say, by himself, but he was certainly the alpha dog in that project. Somebody like a Bobby Chabra, what you see online is not in truly what his yearly compensation is. I'm going to, for the sake of this show, say the head of the UVA Paul Manning Biotech Institute makes $1 million. This guy, immediately after being lured from AstraZeneca, utilizes his connections with his former employer to, ladies and gentlemen, attract his former employer to build a multi-billion-dollar headquarters in Charlottesville and in Albemarle County. I want you to think about that. That is no coincidence. A man who goes on the record and tells the media that he wants to create the Silicon Valley of the East Coast, but instead of technology, it's going to be biotechnology. That's his mission. That's his motive. He then goes and gets his former employer and brings them to Charlottesville and encourages them to spend billions of dollars to build a headquarters. Now publicly traded, Eli Lilly has done the exact same thing. And it's time that we ask ourselves, what is the economic development? What is the financial impact? What is the labor market impact? What is the cost of living impact? What is the real estate impact? What is the tax base impact of two publicly traded companies spending billions of dollars building headquarters locally? I will say this. Amazon is spending $11 billion. In fact, that number is even higher because they're doing a second data campus in Louisa County. But Amazon's spending somewhere between 11 and I think $13 billion doing data center campuses in Louisa. That impact is something. But the impact of AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly doing what they're doing is exponentially more impactful than Amazon's spend. Not even comparable. I'm going to try to put that in perspective for you, the viewer and listener. A lot we're going to cover on this broadcast, on the show. Are we no longer live on my Facebook page, Jude? Are you watching this? Are you keeping up with the stream?
Let's see.
I'm being notified that we're no longer live on my Facebook page, Judah.
Looks like we're off of everything.
And you didn't catch that, Judah?
No.
Are we back live?
Let me see.
All right, our producers on this. I appreciate the text messages and heads up from the viewers and listeners. I want to talk on the program today, Home Depot opening in Albemarle County. I want to talk about how local labor, how local businesses can entice the Gen Z labor pool to work for them. I think that's the next challenge that's going to happen. I want to remind the viewers and listeners that Jeff Gaffney is going to be hosting a show on Monday on this program. It's the Everyday Faith show with Dr. Wayne Fry. It's going to be a fantastic program that airs Mondays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille network. I'm very much looking forward to that. And I want to highlight on the program the impact of this Virginia football game that's going to happen on Saturday with driving fan engagement. Coming out of the gates and winning in double-digit fashion, significant fashion, is going to be really important for Tony Elliott. He right now is an 11.5-point favorite. That line has been dropping. A lot we're going to cover on the show. Are we now? Do you have us live on my Facebook?
I'm checking.
Judah's doing the best he can here. Why don't we go studio camera and two-shot? And I want to give some love to Conan Owen of Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. Locally owned and operated, Conan Owen of Saraspeedy of Central Virginia is a small business owner that is looking to do business with other small business owners locally in business-to-business fashion. If you have a logo and you need visibility for it, he's a great resource for you. Signage, window decals, stickers, direct mail, pamphlets, trifolds, this banner, the Step and Repeat banner behind me, goodness gracious. Conan Owen and Saraspeedy of Central Virginia are a fabulous resource for you, the business owner that is out there that is challenged in today's climate. A lot I want to cover on the program. The comments already coming in about AstraZeneca. Are we live now on my page, J-Dubs?
I restarted it. It was showing it live on...
Are we on a two-shot with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are live?
I said I restarted it. I'm checking now.
Okay. Headline most intriguing to you, and then we'll get into the AstraZeneca headline. What do you got, J-Dubs?
Well, I'm excited for a new Home Depot. A little healthy competition is always good. I remember one of the places I've lived formerly had a couple big competitions. There was just like here, Lowe's and a Home Depot, except they were right next to each other. We also had the two biggest movie theaters, literally like almost sharing parking lots. And I never saw a problem at any of those places. Competition is good for everybody.
Totally agree. I was enjoying coffee today at Cumbre and Dairy Market, and the iced latte I had at Cumbre, goodness gracious, was it good. It was absolutely delicious. I was meeting with some business owners for about an hour and change, just comparing and contrasting notes, what was working, what wasn't, the opportunity for development and scalability with their brands and businesses. They were asking how they should go about doing it, trying to offer our guidance in doing that. And one of the challenges that they had was finding labor that was willing to work, specifically Gen Z labor. Mm-hmm. This sub-30 work demographic, labor demographic, that is, as they described, coddled. As they described the sub-30 labor market, the impact of what they had to go through in college, and in some cases high school and college, with COVID and the pandemic, has really made it difficult to manage and employ this Gen Z labor market. There's this phrase that's going on with the sub-30 labor market called, we need to find our chi.
Okay.
Find our chi, find our passion, find what works. And the guys that were at the table today was like, finding your chi, your chi is your ability to pay your bills.
That's it.
Your chi is your ability to save money and put money in the bank. That's what, not my words, their words at the table is. Your chi is your ability to pay your bills.
I think that's a fairly standard boilerplate way of looking at things for a business owner.
You don't think that Gen Z is wrong with saying we need to find our chi? Like another mention that came up here was one of the guys at the table saying that he was told by someone in their mid-20s that they didn't really want to get their hands dirty, that they wanted to go into management. That they didn't work this hard for this 4-year degree from UVA to start at a position on the totem pole where they had to get their hands dirty, that they wanted to go into a management position. And the guy that was sitting at this table said to this UVA grad, who's unemployed right now, by the way, who's unemployed, has an econ degree, unemployed, said to him, every day I get my hands dirty and I own the business. His exact words to the unemployed UVA grad was that. Mm-hmm. And the UVA grad bristled and said, again, I didn't go through UVA and have this degree to have my hands dirty like this. So the common denominator at this morning's meeting was business owners struggling to find labor to help scale their business that was actually willing to work.
Yeah.
I'm in the deal brokerage business. And one of the things that I'm seeing in the deal brokerage business is this transition from what is your generation called?
I think it might be Gen X.
From Gen Xers, which is the generation right above millennials. You have the generational chart?
I think I do.
He's going to put it on screen. One of the challenges that we're seeing locally is Gen Xers. What's the age range of Gen Xers, the year range?
It's on the screen. Gen X is 65 to 80.
So 1965 to 1980. So if you're a Gen Xer and you were born in 65, that puts you at retirement age.
Yeah.
That puts you at 60 years old.
We're getting old.
So we're seeing Gen Xers now, especially the older and middle-aged Gen Xers, approaching retirement age. Mm-hmm. And there's no succession or transition plan for their business. And if their executive team, their C-suite team, is also Gen X, we're talking maybe younger Gen Xers, 1975, 1972 to 1980.
Yeah.
Those Gen Xers are now 50 plus years old.
Yeah.
And those young Gen Xers are not willing to transition in ownership with the business they work upon, because that would require them to assume debt that is going to take years to pay off for them to become owners of a company if it's done in seller finance capacity or with bank financing. So what these older Gen Xers that own the business, the ones that are like 55 to 65 right now, they're now having to find transition plans where it's not selling to their C-suite or their lieutenants. Instead, it's selling to young millennials or potentially training Gen Zers to work the job and transition into ownership by sweat equity working, counting as their equity contribution, their capital to buy the business.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I'm hearing from these guys that Gen Z, for example, is not willing to do the dirty even to transition into ownership of the business.
Yeah.
Which boggles my mind.
It shouldn't. The business owner class and and Gen Z, probably soon Gen Alpha, they're looking at things from very, very different viewpoints. And from the viewpoint of younger adults nowadays, they're looking at the way things have changed. They're looking at the fact that there are no longer any guarantees. It used to be you could get a job, you could work hard, you could make enough to live off of. You've been saying yourself that this is a 60-hour-a-week area now, which means that everything is worth less. You can work harder for less because you need to work longer to make it here. They're also looking at the fact that there are no longer pension plans. There's no longer loyalty among a lot of at least what they see, and I think it's largely true. This may be less true in terms of small business owners, but there's I think in terms of businesses, largely the businesses that they're looking for jobs at, they've seen that you and I, as laborers, are entirely what's the word?
Commoditized, expendable.
Yeah, expendable is a great word. And
that's always been the case.
That hasn't always been the case.
That has always been the case.
That's
always been the case. People have always been expendable based on performance.
That's true to some extent.
Everyone's expendable.
But thinking that you're expendable despite performance is quite another thing to absorb.
Everyone's expendable in spite of great performance. If the business doesn't generate revenue, the business owner has to cut costs, and labor is often the most expensive of it.
Yeah.
Everyone's expendable.
Sure.
Everyone should go into the mindset of capitalism and working a job that they're expendable.
You can say everyone should, but that's not going to happen.
Everyone on a football team's expendable. Basketball team's expendable.
Okay.
The top performers on football and basketball teams get cut all the time because they're paid too much money. Happens all the time. Perfect example of this, the Washington Commanders starting running back, his last name is Robinson, played football, I believe, at Alabama.
All right.
One of their best offensive players for the last couple of years, but he's injury prone. The Washington Commanders C-suite said, you know what? You're injury prone, and despite your performance, when you're on the field, you're healthy, we're going to go with cheaper talent. And they've got a 7th-round draft pick, a rookie that they're going to count on to carry a lot of the yardage, and a couple of journeymen. They're going to share the running back position among 3 players and cut the guy that's the performer because he's expendable.
Because he might not be there next season.
Because he's expendable. The mindset of not willing to get your hands dirty boggles my mind.
I think it's less a distaste for getting their hands dirty and more a caution about getting their hands dirty for someone who's going to use them and toss them to the side when the job is done.
Using them and tossing them to the side is a job.
Oh, see, that's the owner mentality. I told you, the owners and the laborers are looking at things from different angles. They're not looking at the same picture.
But if that, and you're right, you're 100% right, but that's going to just cause the owners and the decision makers to figure out a way to solve the problem without the laborers.
Which they were going to do anyways.
It's just going to dig the grave faster for the laborer. And there's so many examples of this. The kiosk, the self-checkout at the grocery store.
Those weren't done because people didn't want to work.
The
Those were
kiosk
done
at
to
the
get rid
McDonald's?
of workers.
No, the self-checkout at the grocery store, the kiosk at the McDonald's,
Yeah.
the digital was done for two-prong. It was done because the owner was paying too much on labor. It was done because the owner didn't want to deal with the headaches associated with the labor, sickness, complaining, drug use, whatever it is, and because the owner struggled to find labor. It was multi-pronged why the technology was utilized to replace the labor. I mean, now there's the artificial intelligence that's infiltrating white-collar jobs.
Yeah. Everybody seems to think that it's the magic bullet or the magic pill, and they don't understand that it's not, that it requires people to use it. It is a tool itself. And if you think, if you look around, you'll see companies that laid off half their whatever or 20% of their workforce and then realized that the AI is not a thinking person. It's a language model.
All right, respectfully.
It picks words that it looks at a series of words or statements, and it's fairly good at doing a small set of things, but it requires someone to control it.
Respectfully disagree.
Okay.
We're in the first inning of AI.
Yeah.
And as the AI becomes more ubiquitous and robust, and as professionals learn to utilize the intelligence, that intelligence is going to become even more useful and more on the fingertip, which is going to cause more cannibalization of employment.
Yeah.
This isn't a fad we're in.
No.
This is the reality.
I know.
And where I've gone on this is the conversation we had today was business owners at a table saying we can't figure out how to get Gen Z to feel inspired or work for us.
Yeah. Do you listen to what you're telling me
about
AI?
One business owner that we were talking to today, one Gen Z business owner that we were talking today said $21 an hour to work a frontline food service job and can't find consistency with labor. And the labor that they do have, because the demand is not so significant, the labor for much of the shift is spending time on TikTok and their phone while on the clock. And then the owner said today, I'm paying you for 8 hours, but really you're just working 4. And the additional 4 you're here because I need to pay you the 8 to get you to work the 4 during the busy time. And that just boggled my mind. He said, I need these people to work during a lunch or dinner rush, and the lunch or dinner rush is a 4-hour spurt.
Right.
And he can't just go to the labor and say, I'll pay you $21 an hour for this 4 hours. He has to pay the labor the $21 an hour for this entire 8 hours. And he literally goes to the Gen Zer and he says, while I'm there, he goes, you're being paid $21 an hour to work really 4 hours of your shift. And the other 4, you're standing around doing some side work, but really just on TikTok on your phone. And still you tell me you don't want to work, you call out sick, you come out to work hungover, and you don't feel inspired, or you haven't found your chi with what you're doing. And the $21 an hour employee said, pretty much, it's bananas. So the small business owner that's out here, and that would be a great lower third to put on screen because clearly we're talking about that topic. The small business owner that's out there is telling us, I'm seeing this in business brokerage as we transition from first generation into whoever's going to carry the torch of business ownership locally.
Yeah.
I'm seeing this with frontline jobs. I'm seeing this with white collar jobs. This concept of finding their chi. And the business owner having to literally navigate a labor market where the labor, that's Gen Z, wants to find their chi. There was a time when I was like in my 20s and early 30s, and for me, finding my chi was paying my bills. Finding my chi was saving some money. Finding my chi was buying a piece of real estate. Finding my chi was trying to convert the real estate that I own into an investment property and buying something else. And I'm not sure that's the case anymore. Is it as much a motivator as it was?
I think it's less about that motivator and more about the view from down there, where first-time home buying is further and further out of reach. People are saying things like, "This is a 60-hour work week area." And then people are looking at headlines where 20% of this workforce was laid off and 20% of that workforce was laid off, and really don't feel any sense that that plugging themselves into someone else's business, someone else's passion, is going to amount to anything.
Well, what is that person going to do to pay their bills then?
We've talked about what COVID did to this country, to this planet.
The Great Resignation.
And
yes.
part of that is, I think, a sense of resignation that nothing is enough.
Well, I'll and this is a perfect transition. Go ahead.
And I understand your question about
a lot of viewers and listeners disagreeing with what you're saying here, by the way. Yeah.
That's fine. I don't mind. But I think what was I going to say? I
understand your question, is how you started.
Yeah, I understand your question about how are people going to get by, and I don't have an answer to that. But the problem that your friends are seeing is that a lot of them don't want to basically hoard their hard work for someone that won't value it.
Hoard their hard work?
Yeah.
Work. And this is a perfect segue into the AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly. Mm-hmm. The AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly, two publicly traded companies that are investing billions of dollars. Now these lower thirds can be put on screen. Two publicly traded companies that are investing billions of dollars into Albemarle County and into Goochland County. Mm-hmm. When these publicly traded companies, AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly, invest billions of dollars into headquarters in Albemarle County, into Goochland County, they're going to drive out-of-market workforce demand. That basically means talented labor that's not in Charlottesville or Central Virginia right now will move to Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia to work jobs that are created by AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly and their multi-billion-dollar respective headquarters.
Yeah.
Right? You with me on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. This individual who I trust, who texted me yesterday after the show, said, Jerry, and he's given me permission to realize this. He said, with the AstraZeneca and the Eli Lilly facilities in Albemarle and Goochland, what you need to emphasize to your platform, and I'll read it verbatim, is that it's significantly going to increase the demand for office space, that the synergies with UVA Health and UVA doctors will be significant, that the impact of new labor coming into Charlottesville and Albemarle County because of these headquarters will be significant. And then I said, how do you think that's going to complement or contradict the current labor pool that's in play? And his response to that is eye-opening to me. And his response came on my phone prior to this meeting that I had with the business owners at Dairy Market. And his response was, if the current labor pool doesn't change its attitude or its mindset or is not willing to do work, then the labor pool that's coming in most certainly will.
But the labor pool coming in specifically to work at those places because I don't believe there is that type of workforce here.
Yes and no. And the no piece is when you build a multi-billion-dollar headquarters, yes, there's six-figure and white-collar jobs that go with it, but there's still a need for janitorial.
Yeah.
There's still a need for property management. There's still a need for electrical. There's still a need for HVAC. There's still a need for remodeling, construction.
You think those are the jobs that are going to be coming from all over the country.
I think
to work
those
at
jobs will be filled by somebody.
Yeah.
Those jobs will be filled by somebody.
Yeah.
And if it's not the current labor pool, who?
I mean,
we have this
it's
interesting.
going to be filled by current labor pool.
We have this interesting labor market that's happening here in Charlottesville. If you speak to the small business owner in the interesting labor market, and maybe it's impacted by UVA, maybe it's impacted more collateral damage from COVID, but you talk to a lot of the small business owners, you talk to a lot of the medium-sized business owners, and they continue to say this: we cannot find the people to work. We cannot find the people to work.
Yeah.
And that boggles my mind. Comments coming in. Jason Howard's watching the program. He says this. I think Judah is referring to a time when more people had union or government jobs where lifetime careers were an everyday thing.
Yeah.
And now it's quarter after quarter of thousands of layoffs, partially to boost stock prices.
Yeah.
No pension, no real job security.
100%.
He also says, Jerry Miller, to your comment about fighting my chi, that would never come out of my mind at work. How's that even a negotiating tactic? What is my employer supposed to respond with? I'm at work to find my mortgage payment, fund my retirement, and provide health benefits for myself and my family. Fighting my chi sounds like an off-the-clock me problem.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
Janice Boyce Trevelyan. The labor market attitude is everywhere. So where do you pull from? Isn't AstraZeneca making a manufacturing facility here as part of the build-out? Those are entry-level jobs.
Yeah.
A lot of the labor that comes with construction locally is not local labor. Outsourced, out-of-market labor. I learned this as well from viewers and listeners that watch the show. There's a pool of labor in construction that is almost like a seasonal migrant labor.
I mean, that's always been the case.
That hasn't always been the case.
Yeah. If you think about...
it's been the case with some things like vineyards and wineries,
It's
where they've
also
highlighted on the show. It hasn't always been the case in construction.
It's been the case with electrical work. Whenever there's a big storm and a lot of stuff goes down.
That's with Dominion. Yeah, Dominion will bring out-of-market folks to handle the pools.
I'm saying it happens across a lot of businesses,
Industries.
Industries, yeah. It's just the type of thing where sometimes you need an influx of a larger number of a certain type of laborer than you have available in your local market.
Vanessa Parkhill, her photo on screen. My first boss when I moved to Charlottesville used to say, no one is irreplaceable. It's just a matter of how big of a hiccup there is when you leave. Vanessa Parkhill, as long as those searching for their chi don't expect me to support them, I wish them luck with their journey. Vanessa Parkhill. Pensions have been disappearing since the 1980s, Judah. This is not a new thing.
I know. But the younger generation is, I think, aware that it's gone and aware that they've lost something and doesn't want to become just a wage slave who's tossed to the side when somebody wants to, as was put before, if somebody wants to pad the pockets of a shareholder.
Kevin Yancey. And Kevin Yancey has told the story on this program, and I'm not speaking out of turn. He's mentioned it in comments section previously that he was he's a CDL. He's got a CDL, and he worked in transportation for a reputable beer brand, local beer brand locally. And he'd indicated in previous comments that he'd been laid off by that beer brand. And he said, don't worry about me because CDLs always find another job because there's not that many CDLs. He's got some comments. You can drop dead at your workstation and your job will be listed before your obituary.
Yeah.
He says, why show loyalty to a company that does not reciprocate?
Yeah.
He says 50 years ago, one person worked 40 hours a week, supported a family, purchased a home. Now you can work 24/7 and still come up short.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to worsen.
Yeah.
And
you wonder why these younger people have a problem with that.
Not all the younger people do.
No, of course not all. I'm not.
And the ones that don't have a problem with it aren't going to be finding their chi for long. They're going to grab their chi because they've controlled their own destiny and paid their dues and figured out that their chi could be earned by working and making money.
Well, hold on now. I wasn't making a blanket statement, and I don't think you should either.
What's the blanket statement?
The blanket statement is that the people that go and work will be successful and rule the world. But the problem is some of those people that go and work are going to work their butts off, and eventually they're going to get canned, or they're going to have something bad happen to them. They're going to end up with no pension. They're going to end up with less than a gold-plated Casio at the end of,
But we're in agreement that the people that grind and work are going to be further along than the people that are searching for their chi. Are we not?
Potentially.
Well, I think that's a definite.
Not necessarily. I just saw something about, what's his name, Lexus Ohanian?
Yeah. Founder of Reddit, UVA grad.
Yeah.
Launched Reddit at the Waffle House on 29.
Yeah, walked out of his UVA class and decided that
Not his UVA class. He walked out of taking his LSAT test.
Okay, yeah.
His test to become a lawyer, not his UVA class.
Yeah.
And he walked out of his LSAT, went to the Waffle House and did the framework, early stage framework to find Reddit.
Yeah.
How does that apply to this out of curiosity?
Because a lot of younger people are looking at that type of success story and saying, "Look, why should I work as hard as I can for someone else without any guarantee of?"
But the founder of Reddit worked way harder starting Reddit and sacrificing way more launching a business than he would have if he had just taken his LSAT and became a lawyer.
How do you know he sacrificed more?
Because I've launched companies. And I'm familiar with his story of what he sacrificed to launch Reddit because it's common knowledge. He talks about it all the time. If you Google Alexis Ohanian, and what he sacrificed to find Reddit, you will also find it. You're referencing this because you saw this mentioned yesterday on Reddit.
Yeah.
And you read a headline on a subreddit. This is a story that I know intimately.
Okay, but What I'm talking about right now is the perception.
The perception is that if you don't grind for somebody, that you can then go start your own company and it can become publicly traded. You can marry Serena Williams. You can give millions of dollars to your alma mater, UVA, and you can be globe-trotting billionaire.
You know it's true. How many people want to become the next big TikTok star?
Who buys?
I'm not
truly-
saying that they're going to succeed. I'm certainly not saying that that many of them will.
And it's that mindset that separates, unfortunately, the winners and the losers.
Some of them.
That mindset is this: it's Darwinistic. It's the wolf that is in Yosemite National Park that bypasses the slim and trim elk for dinner, and instead says, "Forget bird in the hand. I'm going for those two in the bush." Is unable to get the two that are in the bush, the elk, and then ends up starving.
Yeah,
It's Darwinism.
for some.
And it's a perfect tie-in to the AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly, because we will see, and viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. We're going to see these two publicly traded companies open a door or a gateway to more publicly traded companies or extremely well-capitalized businesses to open up headquarters in Charlottesville. And these extremely well-capitalized companies, whether publicly traded or private, are going to come to Charlottesville as the executive director, the managing director, the head of the Paul Manning Biotech Institute continues his motive or his mission of building the Silicon Valley of the East Coast with biotechnology. And as this guy, who's paid roughly $1 million a year in compensation, doubles down and triples down and quadruples down and continues to pursue his mission of motive of making the Silicon Valley here in Charlottesville, then we will see more people come here. And those people that are going to come here are going to change this labor market. One guy who texted me yesterday about AstraZeneca said to me, he goes, when this happens, I'm not going to be able to afford to pay my real estate taxes. Because my home is going to uptick so much in value. It's going to get to be more than I can actually afford. Whose escrow payments are increasing, ladies and gentlemen? Because your tax base is increasing. Who in the last 24 months has seen their monthly escrow go up with their mortgage? I have. Have you?
I think pretty much everyone.
Okay. Get ready to see what happens when this happens.
Yeah.
That's the tip of the iceberg. This comment comes in from Deep Throat. Then I'll go to John Blair. Pharma manufacturing plant is precisely what you want from a tax perspective here. He says a huge fixed capital property tax comes from this. You're going to get a ton of tax revenue. John Blair watching the program. A question for you and your real estate involved viewers and listeners. Does the AstraZeneca news automatically reset detached single-family home prices in Albemarle County upwards by 5%?
Oof.
Someone in the industry told me that number last night. Given tight supply, little supply on the horizon, and the salaries involved, they said ratchet up Albemarle County values by 5%. That's why yesterday on the show, the viewer and listener who has never commented on this program, listens, watches, sends me texts, does not have an anonymous handle, does not have a first name or last name that's utilized, but is one of the heaviest hitters locally. He said you should talk with your platform the impact of AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly and how it was not positioned perhaps as significantly as it's going to be on your show yesterday. He said basically, you had a great show yesterday, but when you were talking to AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly, you didn't do a great job of suggesting the significance of what's happening here.
Did we even get to it?
We mentioned it, but I touched on it from a headline standpoint and not a deep dive standpoint.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting dynamic that's happening in Charlottesville is a current labor pool that is searching for their chi or disillusioned or still dealing with this COVID hangover, a labor pool that is not inspired, that doesn't look at work as work and wants work to be fun, And the pressure that's coming
Kind of.
locally, with two publicly traded companies being the leaders, and others are going to follow, right? We know others are going to follow. About to invest billions of dollars into Albemarle County and Goochland. And that impact that's going to have on Charlottesville, Albemarle, and Central Virginia from a real estate standpoint, from an office standpoint, from a labor standpoint. I'm curious to see the impact it's going to have from a politics standpoint.
That's a great question.
If the labor that comes in here from these publicly traded companies, is the labor going to change the ideology locally?
It very well could.
Would it make it more centered? More fiscally conservative? Less activists?
Potentially.
Less far left?
Would be very hard to say.
What do your viewers and listeners think? Comment comes in. From 18 years old on every day, your day should be filled learning and earning. Learning can be via finding a mentor at a low-earning job. Ideally, both at the same time, but there are seasons of life for both. Eventually, you will find yourself earning and teaching the next generation if you went hard learning while young. The best learning is with sweat equity opposed to 3 advanced degrees from my experience. Gen Z that gets the above sets themselves apart, unlike us old dogs back in the day. Humble Gen Z, the sky's the limit. And for business owners, find the humble Gen Zers, and they will take you places, not the other way around. I remember, so I started, we got CEOs left and right watching the program. Michael Guthrie, welcome to the show. Talented restaurateur, Kid Ashley watching the program. Elected official Lottie Murray watching the program. Talented tennis coach Betsy Nugent watching the show. I got a judge watching the program. I got a counselor and 2 supervisors watching the show right now. You know, this is crazy. You want to hear something crazy, J-Dubs? When this firm first purchased its first piece of commercial real estate, it was here in the Macklin building, right? Remember our offices upstairs on the 2nd floor?
Yeah.
You want to hear something crazy? That was 12 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
12 years ago. Bought those first 2 offices from Larry Howard, who has since passed away, the real estate broker who launched Specialty Guitars Plus on Route 29.
Yeah.
He ran that business with his son, Sean, the guitar shop. 12 years ago. And prior to that, our firm was in Bill Nichman's Professional Center.
Yeah.
And in Bill Nichman's Professional Center, we spent like 19 months there. So that would have been like 13, 14, 15 years ago, like 14 years and change ago. And when we moved into the Professional Center, I shared a wall with Bill Nichman. And Bill is the owner of the Professional Center on the downtown mall where United Bank is. He was the designer and the developer of the Holsinger condoed building. The Melting Pot is what the Holsinger is most known for, that building. But above the Holsinger are condos that were sold that went from like $400,000 or $500,000 all the way north of $1 million. Jaffrey Woodruff at one time was running QIM out of the Holsinger building.
Okay.
And for 18 or 19 months while I was in the Professional Center, the office right next door to Bill's, where we literally shared drywall because our offices are connected, private offices, but next to each other.
Yeah.
That entire time, multiple times a week, I just randomly, when I walk by his door, knock on his door and see who was there. And I would just go into his office, walk in, he goes, "Oh, you're here again. Hey, you're here." And he did it initially with, like, "What are you doing?" And then finally, it just became part of our day. And I would just pepper him with questions, and he would offer stories and advice and strategy, and I would just take it in and absorb it. Till finally, one day, he told me, he's like, "You should open up, you should start doing what I'm doing here. Open up an LLC, scrounge some money together, try to do a seller finance deal, buy an office with somebody that's having a hard time selling it, put your office in there, and if there's extra space, rent some of it out to whoever you can rent it out to. You know everybody in this town. And I did that, and it worked.
Yeah.
And then we did it again with John Foltz, the doctor who ran for city treasurer. John Foltz lives off the Rugby neighborhood. Then we did it again with Joe Geek, the former UVA trainer. Then we did it again with Dr. Trice Taylor, and again and again. And it's because of Bill's prodding.
Okay.
But if I hadn't have gotten the guidance from Bill, what do you think? Bill's a boomer? Probably.
Definitely older than me. I would guess that he's probably a boomer.
Boomer, right?
I mean,
If I hadn't have got it from him, if he hadn't mentored me, I wouldn't have done this.
okay.
And then if I wasn't willing to, like, pretty much eat ramen or go to the Pana Garden buffet when no one was looking and scrape the plate of Chinese food into Ziploc bags and stretch that stolen food out for 2 or 3 meals, and if I wasn't willing to work 60 or 70 hours a week, then we wouldn't have been able to do that.
yeah.
And there's going to be people locally. What, you disagree? I mean, this is literally my story.
I know, but you talk about working 60 hours a week, and some of that involves you having the luxury of not working, of sitting down with Bill and picking his brain. And imagine the person who's working 9 to 5. They don't have the luxury to do that. You're looking from things from a different perspective.
Sitting down with Bill and picking his brain, or being in the car when my kids are in the back seat, my wife's in the shotgun seat, and being self-absorbed with work, or staying up all hours of the night with a notepad and brainstorming the next steps, or trying to raise capital to buy a building so you can take a building and scale it, and take a building and improve its occupancy so you make it more valuable, or figuring out how you're going to form partnerships, or how you're going to improve the business model of a client that's been on retainer for you with 12 years and help them gain more market share, or how you're going to help another client who has a dream of doing an omni-experiential business in Albemarle County but may not have the capital or the location to do it, and now seeing that grand opening happening on the 30th of August. That's work. Work doesn't have to be, and like my wife is growing to appreciate this, work is not get a hammer and nail it, or work is not just sit on a chair and be in front of a computer.
For you.
That's for a lot of people. That is for a lot of people.
It's for some people.
A lot of people.
Okay.
I would love, there's many times, dude, there's so many times where I would just be like, of course, it's 5:30 p.m. I love to just go to happy hour, have a couple beers, go home, binge on Netflix, tuck my kids in, eat some cookie dough ice cream, have a scotch and go to bed and not think about anything else since 5:30. I'd love to do that, but that ain't me. For me, like getting home is the second shift. That's where I get some of my best work done, is the second shift. Because when I'm in the first shift, solving problems from other people, solving problems for other clients, I look at it like this. This is so crazy. Like, I look at I look at like life this way, okay? When we come in here, I drop the kid off, our oldest, at 7:40. I'm here by like 7:45 a.m. You get here at 9:30. So I'm almost 2 hours here before you get here in the office. That 2-hour spurt where there's no one here is incredibly productive time for me. I look at it like 2 ways. We have what we do at work, where we can be our best versions of ourselves at work to either make money for our employer, and if we do well for our employer, that employer is going to offer benefits, raises, whatever it may be that come with it, our salary.
Hopefully.
Or if we're our business owner, or if we're the business owner, what we do at work is what drives the business forward. Then when you get home or when you're out of work, then you're dealing with the business of yourself or your family and how you can optimize yourself and your family's financial position or upside as well as possible. It's like 2 shifts of the day. And for business owners, those just bleed together. And those just become one extended period of the day. Comments are coming in faster than I can keep up. Carol Thorpe watching the program. Roger Voisinay watching the program. Daily Progress TV and radio watching the program. Carol Thorpe. Jerry, I would suspect to whatever degree the incoming entities can influence elections to install more centrist and or business positive representatives on city council, they will. Currently, there isn't a single councilor who has a iota of business experience or even seems to give a rat's tail about it. In my humble opinion, that is a large reason why Charlottesville continues to swirl the economic bowl. He says, Bill McChesney, back in the 1980s when the Hampton Inn was being built, our neighbors were migrant plumbers that went from town to town plumbing that model of Hampton Inn.
Wait till you get to the twist.
They were plumbers by day and worked as male strippers at night at the Ramada. I think that's a 60-hour work week. It's funny. Jason, isn't AstraZeneca making a manufacturing facility here as part of the build-out? Those are entry-level jobs. Vanessa Parkhill, maybe that's the everybody gets a trophy generation needs to learn that there are no guarantees. Ask auto workers who thought they had a pension, only to find out mismanagement of those funds left them with little to nothing. I grew up in communities full of steel industry workers who thought their kids and grandchildren had no worry about where they would find a job. Japan said, hold my beer, and now that area is known as the Rust Belt. Mm-hmm. This comes in. As a young pup, you get your membership learning from 6 a.m. or 5 to 7 p.m. Excuse me, this comes in via DM. As a young pup, as a Gen Zer, you get your mentorship in these time slots, 6 to 8 a.m. or from 5 to 7 p.m. That is when the mentors have time to teach you. And the person who sent me that is C-suite at his firm. I'll close with this because it's 1:35 and we got to go make some money, and we didn't cover nearly the headlines we should have covered. And I got a deal that I'm trying to broker here that needs some attention. I don't think I understand. I don't think the sharpest knives in the drawer locally understand yet what this impact is going to be of 2 publicly traded companies. 2 publicly traded companies at the same time building multi-billion-dollar headquarters in the Charlottesville area.
Yeah. I think I mentioned on a previous show, like maybe last week, that I thought it was funny that people were using urban in the same sentence as Charlottesville, because to me it's really suburban. There's not really much of this 10 square miles that I would classify as urban, having lived in Los Angeles as a kid, among other places. And I'm wondering if, obviously there's a cap on how much can be developed in terms of housing and businesses and whatever in Albemarle County, but we've got the new zoning ordinance. The city council certainly wants the up and the density. We may be looking like a real city someday soon.
John Blair said the number he heard yesterday was Albemarle County values with this news uptick 5% real estate.
In what time frame? Because we might be upticking 5% anyways.
What's the multiplier if like another one comes in that's publicly traded to build a headquarters, and another one, in another one? Or a privately held one that's well capitalized? What is the multiplier of what it does? All right, that's the show today on a Wednesday. Back in the saddle tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. with Real Talk with Keith Smith. We give some love to John and Andrew Vermillion, who for 61 years have proudly served Charlottesville and Central Virginia with Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. The Vermillion family is 5 generations strong in Albemarle County, and their business is 3 generations strong. It's on East High Street, and it's online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. These are good people, really good people. Support the businesses that you want to see make it another 61 years, and that's certainly one, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. Thank you kindly for joining us, guys. So long.